again. I'd like to call to order the December 12th, 2023 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors to order. Our first item on the agenda is Director Mason will present the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish, Snohomish, and Tulalip peoples. We express our deepest respect and gratitude to the ancestors of which this land, on whose shoulders we stand. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community.
Thank you very much, Director Mason. We will now have the flag salute. All those that are not in uniform, please remove your hats and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The next item of business will be the roll call. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Lesane.
Present.
Vice President Mitchell.
Present.
Director Herman.
Present.
Director Mason.
Present.
Director Revelinsky.
Present.
Student Representative Gilbertson. Present. Student Representative Kink.
Present.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to section 5.0, which is adoption of the agenda. Dr. Salzman, would you introduce this evening's agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. Tonight's agenda contains the following: the approval of meeting minutes, the administration of oaths of office for 2 newly elected directors, the election of Board President, Vice President, Parliamentarian, a recognition for November Core Value Champions, the Superintendent's report, time for comments from the board and student representatives, time for directors to hear from the community, an update from our legislative representative, section for routine business, an update on the class of 2024 progress to graduation, an update on the fiscal outlook for 2023 through 2027, policies for first reading, and a preview of the agenda items for the upcoming meetings. Since publishing the agenda, the following changes were made to the agenda. Item 7.02, the administration oath of office, the administrator of the oath was updated. Item 10.01, the superintendent's report, the presentation was added. Item 16.01, fiscal outlook 23-27, 2 typographical errors were corrected. And item 18.03, policy 6700, food and nutrition program, proposed revision, first reading, a redundant bullet was removed. Thank you kindly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salzman. We'll now move to section 6.0, which is approval of board minutes. With section 6.01, approve the agenda. Yeah, did I say?
No,
Okay,
I distracted her. I'm sorry.
okay, got you. Okay, gotcha. Is there a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been approved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Herman to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the vote at this point. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. The agenda is now adopted. We'll now move to section 6.0, which is approval of board meeting minutes. Section 6.01 is approval of the minutes for November 28th regular meeting. A motion to approve is in order.
Are we approving all three dates?
Approve all three at once?
We can. Section 6.02 is approval of November 30th minutes. It is a special meeting minutes. And 6.03 is approval of the minutes for December 7th special meeting. Is there a motion to approve sections 6.01, 02, and 03?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Director Herman to approve sections 6.01, 02, 03, and it's been seconded by Director Mitchell to approve same. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, let's proceed to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. The minutes for those sections 6.01, 02, and 03 are approved. We'll now move to section 7.0. Before we start that section, I'd like to take this time to thank all the board members of your time, your talents that you bring to the board. And the one thing we all value is the desire for our children to get the best education possible and to ensure that they succeed in life. Thank you for your dedication and your time to ensure that this work is done. I thank you all. And student reps, I'd like to say for you, you've got a heavy lift in representing the student body of this district with 20,000 students. Thank you for the time that you've taken to step up and say, I will represent them as well and give them a voice to be heard by the board. Thank you for what you do. And please, please, if you can talk with your other students and they're coming behind you, tell them that we appreciate everything that our students do and advise them to come forward and be a student rep as well. So thank you. First section, 7.01. It's been said, and according to the RCWs, the first regular meeting in December is the Board of Directors' annual organizational meeting. And at this particular time, Senator John Lubbock will be administering the oath of office to Director-elect Jen Herman. Director Herman, would you like to go forward and be sworn in? Right there, sir.
So before I administer oath, I just want to take a second to say that one of the highest honors of my life is to be asked to administer oath. And I want to thank all of you for what you do, and thank you for inviting me to administer your oath. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jan Herman.
I, Jen Herman.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States.
I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States.
And the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington.
And the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington.
And that I will faithfully and impartially.
And that I will faithfully and impartially.
Perform and discharge. The duties of the office of Everett School District 2.
The duties of the office of Everett School District 2.
Director at large, position 2.
Director at large.
For a 2-year term.
For a 2-year term.
According to the law.
According to the law.
And to the best of my ability.
And to the best of my ability.
Offer my congratulations to you.
Uh-oh, they got your picture now. Now we know it's official.
Signature isn't worth a whole lot, so don't you?
And do you have any family here that you'd like to have a picture with?
They were watching it from, I was wondering if I could.
Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
please.
I'm sorry?
She wants a picture. There you go, you look good.
Good job, good job. We will now move to section 7.02, which again, by state of Washington law, we have administration of the oath of office. During the first regular meeting in December, the Board of Directors, at the Board of Directors Annual Organizational Meeting, our next newly elected board member, Mr. Charles Akins, will be sworn into the board. Mr. Brian Sullivan will do the honors.
I too follow in the center and love that. That's a hard act to follow. So, but I met Charles when he was 15 years old. He volunteered in one of my campaigns. And he was going to Everett High School. And he's a great success story, going from homelessness all the way to where he is today. So I'm very proud. So,
Good job.
having said that, raise your right hand. I, Charles Atkins,
I, Charles Atkins,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Everett School District 2,
of Everett School District 2,
Director at Large, Position 5,
Director at Large, Position 5,
for a 6-year term,
for a 6-year term,
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Mr. Akins, do you have any family that you would like to also be up here and take photos with you after you sign in? Sign in.
It's your signing.
Darlene has the
Actually,
pen.
signing action, yeah, the pen action.
Yes, yes, I have that. I have that. And I will leave afterward. Yeah, right now.
Darlene will-
And
Pictures?
pictures?
Oh, sure.
Could you come up? Well, and you, Tom.
Okay. That's okay. We'll call him back up. Mr. Atkins has requested that Dr. Salzman present him with his Everett High School diploma. Dr. Salzman, please present Mr. Atkins with his diploma in front of the dais.
There's another camera back there.
Sure. Mr. Atkins, I stand with you. Madam Vice President, I present to you the gavel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as my first order of business, I'm going to give us just about a 5-minute break so that Pam can collect her things and Charles can take his seat. Thank you all. As Vice President, I will now move the meeting forward. This again is our annual organizational meeting. So section 8.0 is election of the board president. Tonight, the board of directors nominates and elects by roll call a vote of president to serve during the ensuing year. I am now calling for nomination for president to serve during the ensuing year. Are there any nominations?
I have a nomination.
Okay. Director Mason?
Given your prior experience of the last 2 minutes, I think you're doing an excellent job. And I would like to nominate Director Mitchell for the role of president.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing no other nominations, by roll call vote. I will start with Director Rovalinsky. How do you vote?
Director Mitchell.
Thank you. Director Mason.
Director Mitchell.
Director Herman.
Director Mitchell.
And Director Atkins.
Director Mitchell.
Thank you. I will now proceed as president. Thank you so much.
You need to vote, Tracy.
Oh, and Director Mitchell, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, we will move on to section 8.02, which is election of board vice president. I would now like to call for a nomination for board vice president to serve during the ensuing year. Yes.
I nominate Director Herman.
Hey, are there any other nominations for vice president? Okay, hearing no other nominations, I will now do a roll call vote. So Director Rovalinsky?
Director Herman.
Director Mason?
Director Herman.
Director Herman?
Director Herman.
The weird thing. For myself, Director Mitchell, Director Herman, Director Atkins.
Director Herman.
Okay, thank you. And our election of the legislative representative is actually a 2-year term. Director Herman is already serving in that role, so she will actually continue in both roles for at least the next year. Section 8.03 is election of the board parliamentarian. Can I please call for nomination for parliamentarian to serve during the ensuing year?
I nominate Director Atkins.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, again, by roll call vote, Director Rovalinski,
Director Atkins?
Director Mason,
Director Atkins?
Director Herman,
Director Atkins.
Director Adkins, Director Adkins.
Director Atkins.
Okay, thank you. So that was very easy. Thank you, congratulations, and I will continue with the meeting. But I'm going to ask a clarifying question. Do we move our seats now? Okay, so we'll just take another 5-minute break so that she can reorganize name tags and we can move into our assigned positions.
I don't think I have to move.
Okay, thank you so much. I will now bring the meeting back to order. Don't like doing that? Okay, I'm going to now bring the meeting back to order. If I can please have everybody's attention so we can recognize our students. Thank you so much for that. I would like to now move to section 9.1, which is our November core value champions. And Kathy, can you please introduce our students?
Yes, I'm the first person to say President Mitchell, Board of Directors, Dr. Salzman, thank you for letting us have the opportunity tonight to recognize our November core value champions. The November core value was equity, and every school in the district will recognize their November champion, as well as having their names listed on the website. But there are 3 schools here tonight who are here to tell you about their champion. We'll have each principal come up with their student, share their reasons why they were selected, and then stand up front, and at the end we'll get a picture of everybody with the board. So family and friends, you'll be able to take pictures as well. The students being recognized tonight in order are going to be Blythe Young with Emerson Elementary, Steve Hopkins with Jefferson Elementary, and Sarah Idle with Evergreen Middle School.
It is with great pleasure that I introduce one of our exceptional students, Zayden, who has been recognized for embodying the core value of equity. Zayden has consistently demonstrated his commitment to a culture of equity within our classroom community. He has earned this award by always helping his classmates to achieve success. He is especially kind and supportive of students who struggle with academics, and he consistently volunteers to help others to achieve their goals. He values the classroom charter and encourages his peers to be their best selves. His ability to create an inclusive and welcoming environment for all demonstrates his commitment to equity. Congratulations, Zayden, on this well-deserved recognition, and thank you for setting such a positive example for our school. Please join me in congratulating Zayden.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Saltzman. It is my honor to present Sophina Davenport as the core value champion for equity. Sophina is accepting and empathetic toward all students, regardless of their background, race, developmental or learning abilities, and age or behavior. She displays grace, understanding, and maturity when supporting peers. Sophina is eager to help with any student who is struggling while relating and connecting herself to them. Sophina, congratulations.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our core value champion for equity is Chloe Ivy. She is a student who exhibits traits and perspectives that exemplify a champion for equity. She was nominated by numerous staff members, and they all had wonderful things to share about Chloe. I'm going to share a few of those statements. Her history teacher said, "I've noticed Chloe being actively aware of the needs and experiences of the people around her on numerous occasions. She seeks out ways to make sure that everybody feels included and represented within our building. Chloe not only strives to do her best on every assignment, she actively helps other students who are struggling." Her leadership teacher shared, "Chloe has been an incredible asset," that was all caps, incredible asset to our leadership team at Evergreen, and shows up every single day wanting to be her best self and make a difference for our school. She is involved in multiple committees, all of which she demonstrates an equity mindset. For example, she had the idea of creating winter holiday boards that were representative of many different holidays. She specifically said she wanted to be sure that all of our students felt seen and comfortable during the winter months. This mindset of making Evergreen a place where every single student feels welcome, comfortable, and safe is one she has showcased since I've known her. That was Mrs. Soros, and is something she keeps at the forefront of her mind in all her leadership work. Her volleyball coach added, "Chloe keeps equity in mind on the volleyball court. From day one, Chloe demonstrated her amazing leadership skills to be sure that every player felt like they were part of the team. She even gave up her jersey, the jersey with the number she wanted, to another player who was new to our team so that they would feel more confident and comfortable out on the court. Chloe exemplifies what it means to be a student who works hard to make sure all voices are heard and supported. We are all very proud of Chloe Ivy."
Parents, if you want to come up here with me and take a picture, feel free. Will, can you just, there you go. Perfect. All right, you ready? Hold up your certificates. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm done. You guys come on up. All right, we good? Thank you very much.
Everetton students. And to you and your families, you do not need to stay for the rest of the meeting. You can leave if you so wish, and have an enjoyable evening. So we'll now move to section 7.0, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Saltzman, would you like to present your report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. First of all, to the students, amazing, and thank you for all that you do. I would like to let everybody know about our new advisory council that we're going to have, and we want to look out for community members passionate about student nutrition and physical health. There'll be a new advisory council. Please go on our homepage, learn more, and apply before December 15th if you can. This will be a unique perspective and insights that can shape important decisions in our community on health and wellness. Thank you. A big congratulations to Miss Leslie Moffitt, the band director at Heatherwood Middle School, on her induction into the Washington Music Education Hall of Fame. With an impressive 36-year career, she follows the legacy of her parents, Bruce and Joe Caldwell, in this extraordinary honor. What a well-deserved recognition for a lifetime dedicated to music education. In collaboration with Everett Community College and the College Success Foundation, our district is proud to be selected as one of the 25 regional partnerships joining the Limitless Learning Network. Over the next 4 years, Limitless will share programs supporting student transitions from high school to post-secondary education in Washington State. Our partnership will connect with local K-12 and higher education teams, fostering collaboration, sharing ideas, and developing best practices to bridge the gap between aspiration and enrollment. So congratulations to everybody that's been involved with that. The joy of robotics. Earlier this month at Eisenhower Middle School, we had a successful robotics competition weekend, and several of our schools competed. I would like to take the time right now to congratulate the North Middle School Cybernetic Narwhals, who ended the meet with a 10-0 record. 10-0 record, how about that? Okay, very good. The league record score, and brought home the league championship. I'm very proud of all the teams who came out and did their best, and thank you to the parents that came out and supported their youngsters that day. It was a great weekend seeing our youngsters doing robotics. It'll be time for our 4th annual story time, where we'll be reading a fun story to kick off the winter break to our youngsters. This will be live on Zoom on Thursday, December 14th, beginning at 5 p.m. We hope our community can come out, sip some hot chocolate, and hear some good Christmas holiday readings, okay? Well, believe it or not, winter break is almost here, right? Does everybody realize that? And first we'll have an early release for our students on December 15th. But I'd like to wish everybody a fantastic winter break, filled with joy, relaxation, and moments to cherish. Please take this time to rest, rejuvenate, and recharge. See people that you haven't seen in a long time, and have fun along the way. Might be cozying up with a great book, or exploring new things, or just enjoying the outdoors and maybe see a little white snow or something like that. So looking forward to everybody enjoying their break, well deserved by all our staff, employees, and our students, and everybody that works in the Everett School community. Happy, healthy holidays, and a happy, healthy new year as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saltzman. We'll now move to section 11.0, which is board superintendent and student representative comments. The purpose of this agenda item is for directors and student representatives to have the opportunity to share what they have encountered through work in the district, or as being students, in schools and in the community as it pertains to the work of the board. Comments should be kept brief and should not share personal information. So Student Representative Kink, would you like to start us out?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'd like to congratulate our new board directors, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future. At the previous meeting, I noted that the district could improve on including students on committees and councils, and I was very pleased to hear that myself and other student leaders in the district have been implemented on the sustainability and technology committees here. Other than that, I don't have a lot to update on. Jackson, everyone is getting ready for a much needed break. We wrapped up another very successful food and toy drive. And we're finishing this week with some spirit days and a winter assembly. So yeah, I hope you guys all have a very restful and festive break.
Thank you. Student Representative Gilbertson?
I'm happy that I get to be on the sustainability committee with Will and other students in our district. And then congratulations to our new members on the board, as well as Everett High put on a winter wonderland. I was not able to make it, but they included clubs this year. And through photos and what I've heard, there was a lot more activity, which was awesome because previous years it kind of been pretty low, just coming back from COVID and everything. And yeah, that's about what's going on. Looking forward to the break, and I know everyone else is.
Dr. Ovalinsky?
Congratulations, Director Adkins, Director Herman.
Dr. Mason?
Thank you. I also would like to welcome Charles to the board, and I look forward to supporting you as you learn about your new role and hearing about your perspective as we tackle work together. Let's see, while our students and staff continue to work away, it is definitely also a season of fun and festivities and celebrations. I attended the community luncheon here at the CRC. I must say the staff did an excellent job of designing a really interesting and informative meeting. I do believe the participants walked away with a much higher level of knowledge about what our schools look like in the year 2023, and a greater appreciation for how well Everett is actually doing. I also dropped by the holiday luncheon, also here at the CRC, and what I really enjoyed about that opportunity was just the many conversations that I was able to have with people who I don't often get to meet or learn about how each one of them plays a role in supporting our students. It's a complex job of educating, and everyone has a little piece of it, and I just always enjoy putting all those little pieces together. I would also like to say, although I don't personally know many of the employees with us here tonight, nor the specifics of your daily routines or positions, I do know our district would not be as good as it is or even operate without you. So I would just like to take a moment to personally communicate my gratitude to each of you and thank you for all you do. And then lastly, I was able to participate in one of my favorite school activities at the View Ridge Holiday Store. So my kids attended View Ridge. I got to go and help wrap gifts for many years in a row. And I just feel so honored they welcome me back so that I can get a little flavor of all those elementary kids excited about the holidays. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Dr. Adkins?
All right. Ayukwi, Nawalak, Charles Adkins. Hi, my name is Charles Adkins. I'm a proud member of the Yurok tribe of Klamath, California. First, I want to thank the people of Everett and Mill Creek for giving me this responsibility and opportunity to make a difference in our kids' lives. I want to share about why I'm here to begin with and why this position matters to me, and why it is so important that this board does not fail its students. As the first Indigenous member of this body in Everett Public Schools' 130-year existence, I also feel a historic responsibility to our tribal kids. Our tribal kids are underserved, underachieving, and most importantly, undercounted. And this was by design. This country's education system has done all it can to tear down Indian kids, to tell us we are not deserving, to tell us we do not matter, to tell us kill the Indian, save the man. As many of you know, I attended Chemawa Indian School. Chemawa has been continuously operated by the federal government since the 1880s. Chemawa was originally intended to commit cultural genocide against Native Americans, to take away our language, our history, our culture. Several generations of my family went through Chemawa, and as the school was the primary off-reservation boarding school for Northwest Indians, several generations of Native kids here in Washington state were forced to attend this institution of genocide. And that's what it is, genocide. Generations were told time and time again that we needed to eschew our savage Indian ways and learn the white civilized way. It was at Chemawa that we were taught that we didn't matter, and it showed. There are still hundreds of kids who never left Chemawa and who are still buried in mass unmarked graves on the campus. Even now, our kids are still dying at Chemawa. After I left in 2013, there have been several kids who never made it home, kids who never got a chance in life, kids who had dreams, kids just like me. Now it's been over 10 years since I left Chemawa and found myself homeless at 15 years old. Back then, I was alone, no family, no support system. I had nothing. I wound up in Everett because Cocoon House was the only shelter in Western Washington at the time that had beds available for someone like me. Within 48 hours of being at Cocoon House, I enrolled at Everett High. Once settled in, I found a city, school, and community that supported me, cared for me, and loved me. And many of you in this room helped me get here, whether you knew it at the time or not. So many of you put so much effort into making sure that I made it, making sure that I knew I had adults I could trust to be there to support me when I had nothing else, helping make sure I had new clothes, making sure I graduated, and making sure that I not just survived, but thrived. When I was at Everett High School, I never expected to make it this far, but you all believed in me, even when you had no reason not to. So thank you. And ever since Everett saved me from the gutter, I have dedicated my life to giving back to a city and schools that have given me so much, that have given me everything. And I will not rest until every kid has the skills, knowledge, and support they need to break the cycles of poverty and homelessness, for every kid to have their basic needs met in our district. And I will do all I can to make sure we are doing right by the people who keep our schools running and ensure that those working in our schools can afford to live here and send their kids to Everett Public Schools. I look forward to working with my fellow board members and Dr. Saltzman in ensuring that every child matters and that we are putting kids first. My ancestors persevered through plague, genocide, and abject poverty, all to give me a chance at a better life than theirs, a chance to prevent this from happening to future generations and future kids. I will not let their centuries of sacrifice and suffering be in vain. Thank you for your time. Will Klug.
Dr. Herman.
Director Atkins, I first want to welcome you to the board. Congratulations first, but I know that we've only had a few opportunities to really talk, and I'm truly looking forward to serving with you these next few years. So thank you for being here, and thank you for stepping up. Just a few things to report from me. Last week was heavy for me on instructional reviews. That was the last week of instructional reviews, and for 3 of my liaison schools, I was able to attend Heatherwood Middle School, Mill Creek Elementary, and Sequoia High School. And once again, it's the consistency of the school teams really digging into data, really looking at those, the gaps in student performance, and then coming up with their big rocks. That to me is one of the highlights as a school director, is really to see that happening at the school and get to tour around the classroom. So a big shout out to Laura Wellington and the Heatherwood team, Cindy Foster and the Mill Creek team, and Belinda Mountjoy, who is affectionately referred to on the campus as MJ, and that team there. Just really, really fantastic work happening in the schools. So it's wonderful to see. And then just wishing everyone a wonderful, safe, and happy holiday break. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Atkins, welcome also, and thank you for your message. As much as we had tonight the students here representing the equity than they do in our school, it is through the voters that you all make us a diverse board. So losing Pamela Sane and what she brought, I learned so much from her, and I hope to learn, and I know I will learn so much from Director Atkins. So thank you so much, because it is, again, it's the community that makes the diversity up here, because we can't do this ourselves. So thank you. I also I've just been very busy, unfortunately, with work, but I will say that we're enjoying Jackson basketball games again. And what the nice thing about Jackson basketball games is it's not just athletics. I get to see the dance team, so there's arts. And last week was the drum line, and it was phenomenal. And we only usually get to see them at football games, but to see them actually on the course. So it is just sort of nice to sort of mix a little arts and sports. So thank you so much. I'll be very quick tonight. I want to thank everybody that's here tonight. That now is the time for public comments, section 12.0. The school board Thank you. Specifically sets aside time during the regular meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and want to hear and understand the perspectives you bring to the table. Our board meetings are designed to conduct district business in public in an orderly, productive, and respectful manner. We welcome ideas and opinions presented in the same manner. Dr. Saltzman has handed me 4 people that would like to speak tonight. The entire board welcomes you to this meeting. Just so you understand what happens, we will have, we allow 3 minutes per person. So for 4 people, that will keep us exactly on time because we allot every meeting about 15 minutes for this. We are here to listen, not to respond. Your comments are recorded, and the public and yourself will have access to all of those recordings after tonight. There is not a need to repeat what has previously been said, but you have the right to speak what you want to say. There are lights on the lectern, which will indicate your time, and when you come up, I will explain that a little bit further. We want to make sure that at this time, finally, please remember that your words have impact, and you, not the school district, are responsible for your words. We caution all speakers that it is possible for your statements that your statements could violate the rights of others under various laws, including laws protecting privacy and laws prohibiting defamation. If you are unsure of the legal effects of your remarks, you should seek independent legal advice. And in any case, we ask that you help us model for our students what is respectful and inclusive community looks like and sounds like. The purpose of the, is for the board legislative representative. Oh, nope, I skipped. That was the end. Sorry, new. Thank you for your patience and grace. In order that you came up, I am looking for Christine Roop, if I said your last name right. It's Christina. Christina, thank you. Thank you. So there is not a need to adjust the microphone. It will pick you up no matter height.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes to speak. When you begin speaking, you'll see the green light appear on the lectern with those 3 blips that are there. A yellow light will come up when you have 30 seconds left, and the red light comes up when we need you to cease talking. So you may begin when the green light comes on.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Christina Roop. I am a paraeducator here at our Everett School District, but I'm here tonight representing SEIU and an unsung heroes of our Everett Public Schools is our cooks. They are up before the sun is even out. They're here before even any admin are up and moving around the schools. They are the heart of our schools working. They feed 10 to 15,000 students daily. After all that hard work, and then they start all over. They start cleaning, preparing for the next day. Cooks also do extra jobs, like cook for ECAP programs, get snacks ready for our athletes and clubs for our students after school and sometimes before. There are some that have to deal with some of our harder parents coming in to pay for lunch or see what they're having for lunch. They also have to do lots of paperwork on what they serve, how they serve it, how many they served throughout the day. They have to do laundry. During COVID, you sent them out. During COVID to serve students during COVID from ages 2 months to 18 years old, at least twice. That's 20,000 students a day, plus all the little younger ones from 2 months to 5 months that they've never seen. They were out there on the front lines. You asked them and they were there serving. So where is their thank you? We haven't given them any raises or any kudos at all. You say you want to be in the top 3 districts, but you don't want to pay for it. You don't want to pay for their hard work, their dedication. Some have been here 20 years, 30 years, or 30 plus years, serving our students daily. Not giving them one lunch, they're giving them lunch and breakfast. So take that 10 to 15,000 and double it, because they're giving them food twice. And we know our students, some of them really need it, and that's the only meal they're going to get throughout the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I did forget to introduce you completely. Christina does live in the district and is an employee of the district at North Middle School. Now I would like to invite Jim McCartney up, who is a resident of the district, no, not a resident district, but an employee of the district, works here at the CRC and at the stadium. Jim, please. You'll have 3 minutes to talk. When the green light begins, then you can begin.
My name is Jim McCartney. I work grounds here in the district. I want to tell you my COVID story. Life was comfortable. My wife was a mental health clinician for Compass Health, and then they closed her office. They gave her a chance to work, continue her employment, and her opportunity to work with mentally ill sex offenders. There's no man alive that could allow his wife to take that kind of abuse. So I said, I'm blessed to have the job that I do to take care of you. So I told her to quit, and that's what we did. She did. Things were rough at first, and it's been a rocket ride trying to keep up with the prices and the challenges. Then someone stole our car from Fred Meyer parking lot in broad daylight. We acquired a $700 a month payment that we didn't have before. The challenge became even greater, but was manageable until you took our overtime away. From there, it was a scramble. Personal loans, payday loans, credit cards, all maxed. We robbed Peter to pay Paul, and now there's no one to rob to pay Peter back. My story is not unique. We, the members of SEIU 925, have all faced these problems in some form or another. You have the power to end this negotiations by doing the right thing to offer us a fair wage increase. It's time for you to do the right thing by all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to now invite up Cindy Wilson from Monroe Elementary School, who has an employee concern. When the green light comes on, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Wilson, a valued district employee of Everett Public Schools. For the last 15 years, I have worked in various capacities, from the beginning as a substitute and currently a kitchen manager in an elementary school, where I fuel our future with nutritious and well-balanced meals. I stand before you not only as a voice representative of the Food and Nutrition Department, but as a voice for all qualified employees on the front line having to continually ask for fair and livable wage. As you know, a livable wage is determined by the minimum hourly amount that an individual needs to earn in order to be above the poverty line. The average living wage is a way for employers to gauge the health and wellness of their valued employees by taking into consideration not only the hierarchy of jobs, but also looked at the fiscal demands placed on the constituents. I know Everett Public Schools is all about equity, and the living wage does not take into consideration personal circumstances. The National Conference of State Legislature and various other reputable sources identifies Snohomish County residents needing to make a minimum of approximately $32 an hour for a living wage. The wage is not merit-based. The wage is identified as the lowest amount for have employees to take care of themselves and a family of two. That value does not take into consideration any kind of incentive, wage increases, That is the bare minimum. If a living wage is identified as such, then why is administrators make anywhere from 200 to 600% above the minimum living wage, while food nutrition makes almost 30% less than a living wage? If the district's mission is to empower each student to become resourceful, responsible, lifelong learner in a secure, positive learning environment where each person feels worthy, respected through the support of family, community, and staff, then why does the district fail to empower and provide for those who are expected to implement its mission? If this is the district's mission, then why does the district fail to empower and provide a living wage to the workers, employees who are expected to implement this mission? Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. I'd up Sarah Scott, who works in the district with the CRC and the CTE. Sarah. So Sarah, when the green light comes on, you'll have 3 minutes.
Perfect. Hi all. As many of you already know, my name is Sarah Scott and I am a CTE field technician for Everett Public Schools. Over the past several months, we have all emphasized the pressing concerns that we as educators and support staff are facing. There are 2 things that I want to bring to the attention of the school board. First off, our country has witnessed a staggering 17.3% increase in inflation since 2021, unfortunately outpacing the growth of our wages and exacerbating the financial strain within our community. Rental prices have become obscene, with the grim reality that in most cases, 50% of our wages are directed toward housing costs. The US government defines affordable housing as no more than 30% of gross income. Mortgage rates remain inflated, while the anticipated drop in home prices never occurred, leaving homeownership far out of reach for many potential buyers. Student loan repayments started in October, and most of our health benefits will be increasing in January. On a personal note, I received notice that my childcare rates are increasing by 10% next month, which will potentially add an extra burden of $200 per month for many families, if not more. It is noteworthy that despite being at the top of the SEIU salary schedule in terms of hourly rates, I find myself ending each month with barely $5 to my name. Secondly, as we navigate these economic challenges, it is crucial that we broaden the conversation beyond financial concerns. We must all address our commitment to inclusivity and the recognition of historically significant events. While my union siblings and I engage in negotiations with the district, we are advocating for the recognition and celebration of Juneteenth, and will continue doing so as this day holds profound significance in our country's history, marking the emancipation of the last remaining enslaved peoples in the United States. As educators and support staff, it is imperative that we fully grasp the importance of acknowledging and celebrating our shared history. In doing so, we must foster an environment that promotes equality for students and staff alike. We must work together to address these challenges, advocating not only for fair compensation, but also for an inclusive and equitable workplace that respects our employees. We must be leaders in paving the way for the recognition of all people within our district. Therefore, I implore the board to collaborate with the district administrators in helping us achieve these essential goals. Thank you for your time.
And I have been notified that there is one online speaker. Oh, thank you. Lamia Abdelkader is a parent and would like to speak about Islamophobia in relation to the current situation in Gaza. And is she on, or is the person on? Okay, welcome. I cannot see her or him.
Hello?
Hello. Okay, now I can see you. Thank you.
Hi.
Yes, so first off, could you please pronounce your name for me? Because I would like to learn how to say it.
Thank you. First name Lamia and last name Abdul Qadir. I go by Abdul.
Thank you so much. You have 3 minutes to speak. I know you cannot see the blips, but we give you 3 minutes to present what you would like to say. So thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. The current events in Gaza have sparked global concerns of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, along with intense emotions, fear, and anxiety, and confusion for many of us, including my family. My son, who is a third grader at Silverfirst Elementary, loves reading history books. I believe he's read every single I Survived book out there. He learned so much about the history of America and Europe. Naturally, he has many questions regarding the current events. Some are really challenging to answer. It's hard to explain what is meant by ceasefire and genocide to a third grader. That's not all of it. One friend of his lost several family members in Gaza. My son is afraid, sad, and frustrated. I ask, what is the district doing to support the mental health of students affected and their families? How are you teaching about current events and related history of the region? When will my son learn about the history of Middle East and its many contributions to the world? Will he ever learn about Nakba? Will he ever learn about the Balfour Declaration? Will he get a chance to dance Palestinian dabka, same way that he plays Gaga Bowl at school? Many questions relate to the mental health of our children. The district recognizes Islamic culture in its calendar and Palestine on its list of ethnicities. We acknowledge the district's efforts and want to build on it. Highlighting the history of Middle East and the Palestinian narrative in curricula, school activities, and libraries is essential to us to make our children feel seen, represented, and help them process what is happening, along with providing a safe space for them to express their thoughts. Using accurate and neutral terminology is essential to teach them how to express their feelings and words and thoughts in using the right words. We fear what we do not know, and knowledge, we find that knowledge is essential to the safety of our local communities, not just the Muslim, but also the Jewish and other communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul. You will receive a written response to your questions in the coming days, or maybe after the holiday. So thank you all for your time and your participation in our public meeting. Your words are important to us. I would now like to move on to legislative update, section 13.0. The purpose of this agenda item is for the board, legislative representative, and other directors, as applicable, to share legislative updates through work in the district, in schools, and in the community as it pertains to work of the board and the interests of the district. Director Herman.
Great, thank you. So this is the ramp up preparing for the 2024 legislative session, which is the second year of the biennium and officially begins January 8th. Legislative committees have been holding committee days, which are meetings as sort of a jump start to the session. The House Capital Budget Committee had a work session last week, hearing from Tyler Munch from OSBI on school construction programs. With information and discussion on SCAP, the School Construction Assistance Program, which we do take part in. He spoke about the need for SCAP enhancement, increasing the allocation to get closer to actual cost of construction and actual square footage allocated per student. And this relates to what we met with Representative Mary Fossey about a couple of weeks ago in November, including the challenges of school districts to even access those funds, because really they are contingent on passing capital bonds and levies in local elections. In 2023, just 2 out of 20 school districts passed a capital bond. So those state SCAP appropriations have actually decreased in recent years, despite rising construction costs and the need of districts for updating school facilities. So there's some interesting data there. The Senate Early Learning and K-12 Education Committee met earlier this month for a work session as well, with a similar presentation from Tyler Munch again on this gap enhancement, as well as presentations on the 9th grade success initiative, AI for education, and media literacy, misinformation and disinformation. An interesting point during the AI portion of the committee meeting was something we'd heard during WASDA, and that was really the need to mandate computer science in our state's K-12 curriculum. The House Education Committee also met last week for work session with the topics of school safety and student well-being, including data on threat assessment programs, safety drills, and emotional and behavioral distress planning. Also an update on staff to student ratios in the prototypical school model and enhancements that are in the process of being phased in for student support staff in such positions as school nurses, social workers, and psychologists. So statewide progress being made there. So just as we have as a school board hold our study sessions, the legislators also hold work sessions, and they are done in a similar fashion for their committees. So it's interesting to hear that statewide perspective. Links to view these recordings are available on the state legislation webpage. So just as you'd see the committee hearings, there's a little bit of a gap, but they're once again starting. So just want to make sure that everyone is aware that those are up and running again, and some interesting information is being shared. Back to us here in Everett, our 2024 legislative priorities are posted on our website. Not only do we use this to communicate with legislators, but this document is also a communication tool to let the general public know what we in the Everett School District are advocating for this legislative session. And this week we have a meeting with Senator John Levick from the 44th Legislative District. That will be tomorrow. Thursday, we will be meeting with Representative Cortez. And Friday, we will be meeting with Senator Robinson and Representative Fossey from the 38th Legislative District. So we appreciate our legislators, how they've made time for us to meet with them prior to session. And then also for directors, WASDA will be starting up weekly meetings in January, and you are welcome to attend. The former WASDA networking hour, which is Thursdays at noon, is now going to be called In Session Live, and these are weekly Zoom meetings starting January 4th. The LegRep networking meetings will also be taking place weekly during the session, Monday evenings, again over Zoom. Monday nights are more LegRep focused, but the Thursday in-session calls will be more high level in terms of bill progress, cutoff dates, as well as guest speakers, legislators, and education advocates to speak on specific issues. So any school director is welcome to attend both of these if you'd like, and I'll be using these to get information to share back with the board. And then lastly, don't forget on your calendars that the Joint Legislative Conference and Day on the Hill with WASA, WASDA, and WASBO will be January 28th and 29th. WASA being the Washington School Administrators and WASBO being Washington School Business Officers. We'll be hearing updates on our shared priorities and on the current education budget and policy landscape. This event also includes student representatives, so I hope our student representatives will be able to go. That's it for now, and then our first meeting in January will be after session begins, so it'll be interesting. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Can I add just one comment for our new directors? If you have not already done so, you can sign up for daily e-clippings from WASDA, which provides the news across the state of what's happening in other school districts. But then also what reminded me is I got a notice of all the different dates that the in-session live will be happening. And I'm not sure exactly who it's on. I think it's on the WASDA website where you sign up for that. You just plug in your district email so you can get those updates.
If I could just add in, yeah, if you check out the WASDA webpage, there is also an email update you can get for in session, but you do need to subscribe, as you were saying. So just enter your information, it'll be sent to your inbox.
Director Atkins, did you have a question? Okay, sorry, I thought I saw a microphone move. Any other questions? Thank you, Director Herman. And for the legislative meeting, you should have received a meeting today. The conference, the Sunday could be virtual. So that we don't all have to go down, but we can discuss later who wants to go. But it is a really great time if the students, we can arrange for them to go. That would be awesome. So thank you. So now we'll move on to a consent agenda section, the consent agenda, which is section 14.0. Dr. Saltzman, would you provide an introduction to the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes includes items that occur less frequently but are of routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or consider a discussion about the policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office did not receive any questions. The consent agenda is presented as published for board approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Oh, a motion to adopt the consent agenda is in order.
I'll motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Director Atkins and seconded by Director Mason to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in a new business section of the agenda? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion carries. We will now move on to strategic progress monitoring, section 15.0. This strategic progress monitoring tonight is the class of 2024 progress to graduation. Dr. Willard.
Thank you. I'm going to get set up. Good evening, Dr. Saltzman, Board President Mitchell, Board of Directors, and student representatives. I'm really happy to be here tonight to share our progress to graduation for the class of 2024. So this evening, I'm going to have a chance to share with you our graduation rates, provide an overview of graduation requirements, describe progress to on-time graduation for our current seniors, the class of 2024, also describe to you our systems of support for graduation, and then share a preview of a new graduation pathway option that will be available this year. So with that, when we talk about progress to graduation, we're really aligned with priority student outcomes around reducing gaps between groups of students and also ensuring students are prepared to succeed in college and career. So when we talk about graduating students, it's not a final milestone. It's really a place where students move from that place and move into what their plan is beyond high school. So an important milestone, but there's so many more milestones ahead. So with that, in November, we submitted our final graduation rates to the state. And with that, we also have our graduation rates for the district, and we will have final graduation rates for Washington State, as well as some of the other graduation rates for different groups of students and free to the high schools when we get to January, and the state will announce that information. So with that, for the class of 2022, their five-year graduation rate is 94.5%. It did decline 0.8% from the class of 2021. But of course, we graduate more students with an additional year. So you can see many more students were graduating from that class. Also, we increased our graduation rate, our 4-year on-time graduation rate, by 2.1%. And so that's for the class of 2023. So we'll receive additional data as we get into January, and at some point we'll be able to share that with you as well. When we talk about graduation, there's lots of pieces. It's actually very complicated. And these are 3 big areas that describe graduation requirements for our current seniors. The first area is around the high school and beyond plan. This is a plan that students start in 6th grade and continue and revise annually through their senior year. Students write what their plans are for after graduation, some of their career interests, college interests. They explore skills. There's a whole bunch of different pieces like resume writing, mock interviews, other components that students participate in. And in our senior year, students are all engaged in a class called College and Career Readiness Seminar that's specific to our class. Prior years, it was senior seminar. Someone might recognize that. And we've morphed that class to really be updated with what's currently happening in terms of making sure students have an opportunity to prepare. The second group is really around credit and subject area requirements. Students are required to have 24 credits in specific areas. And then the final group is really around graduation pathway options. And this is that students can demonstrate their proficiency in math and English language arts. In many prior years, this would have been just assessments, but what you'll see is there's many different ways that students can meet this requirement. A further look at the credits that students are needed for graduation. It's really 24 credits, and there's 17 core requirements. There's 3 credits that are considered personalized pathway requirements. That keyword in everything is pathway. So aligned to their high school and beyond plan, students can opt to take some classes that are electives aligned with what they think their future choice is in their high school and beyond plan. And those are in the areas of arts. They can substitute 1 credit, and in world language, they can substitute both credits if they are aligned with a plan that doesn't require those 3 sets of courses. They also have 4 elective credits, and a half credit is that College and Career Readiness Seminar that's part of our district. So something we've had in place since 2020 is the Graduation Requirement Emergency Waiver. We also refer to it as the GRU waiver. So GRU is what we say commonly. When it first started, it was allowed for special circumstances. So when students had encountered special circumstances, especially aligned with the pandemic and access to courses, this was a way to allow students to graduate. And at first, it started with 2 core credits that could be waived and also the graduation pathway requirement. Starting this year, the students in the class of 2024 will only have the GRU waiver for 1 core credit available to them, so just 1 instead of 2 core credits, and then the graduation pathway requirement cannot be waived. What we have going into the future, though, is an academic waiver, and that is something that's part of our district's policy 2410. It allows up to 2 elective credits to be waived for special circumstances, and that will continue beyond this school year. So when we talk about graduation, a lot of the work we do, we use code language, I guess. We call this on-time graduation, often referred to it as OTG. And every year we go through a cycle where we really learn about the current class of seniors, because every year the graduation requirements are different, our students are different things are in place every year. And so when we start the year, you can imagine this is like a calendar. We start out the year by mapping out our success. So what did we learn from the prior year that we want to do this year? What is the status of current seniors? Where are they? Are they on track? And so I'll have a chance tonight to share a little bit of that as well. Then we get a little further along in the year, like right now, where we really talk about on-time graduation for all. And we do this all year long also, but we spend a lot more time in this. This is when we look at different groups of students more closely. We also look at many different grade levels more closely to make sure that all students are really aligned with their plan for graduation. When we finish first semester and we start second semester, we talk about overcoming barriers to on-time graduation. And that is also a reflection point where we look back at first semester. What is the status of our seniors and other students to graduation? What did we learn from first semester? Things change as the year goes on. And then we're lined up for the very end of the year after spring break, but certainly we get to May and June and into the summer. We look at our runway to graduation and summer graduation. So how are we going to make sure all seniors graduate? What do we have to have in place? If students don't graduate in June, what are we going to do to make sure that they have an opportunity to graduate over the summer with support? Another set of code words that we talk about when we talk about on-time graduation is red, yellow, green. This is really a reference to credits, one of the key pieces to graduation. So this changes each school year as kids go through 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, but roughly, it means that red means that they are a year more behind. And if you're a freshman, it means that you really are not quite there yet. So as we scale up through the school years, yellow means they're about a year or a little less behind in terms of credits only. And if they're green, they're on track for credits. So typically right now with 24 credits, they would have started senior year with 18 credits. And if they don't have that, they start into the yellow and so forth. So different scales at different points in the year. So this is something we track very closely, the status of credits to graduation. So what we're seeing here is that just under 90% of our students really are on track in terms of credits. And then with smaller proportions, we have students who are in the yellow and in the red. And this is actually an improvement over last year of about 4%. So we're seeing students with lots more opportunities for credits, and we continue to grow that so students are really ready. It starts in middle school. If we were to back up this conversation, it's really in middle school we have opportunities, and they're really having those opportunities throughout. When we look at our categories by program, and we look at our multilingual learners, and we look at our students who are qualifying for free and reduced meals and students with disabilities, we see that our rates are lower. And in those rates too, we have seen increases this last year. So we saw an increase in our multilingual learner students in terms of credits, 13 percentage points over last year. So the rate has actually increased. A lot more work to make sure that students are placed at the great grade level when they come into this country at high school, to make sure that we give them credits, partial credits, and other credit-bearing opportunities, and making sure that they're aligned with credits that come from competency, especially world language credit, where they come with abilities from knowing other languages. Also, our students with free and reduced meals, that also has increased by 8 percentage points from last year, from the class of 2023. And then for our students with disabilities, it's actually been an increase of 6%. So we spend a lot of time with students making sure that they're making up credits, that we give them a lot of support, that we don't wait until the very end of senior year to do those tasks, but we're following up even earlier along the way. And so you're seeing evidence of that here. And finally, to look at the status of credits by race and ethnicity. Here too, we've seen great increases. So in every single area, there definitely were increases, but most remarkably would be in our African-American Black group of students, where right now we have no students in the red. And actually last year in the class of 2023, the rate was at 71%. So you can see that it's gone up 18%. In our group of Hispanic students in 2 or more races, it also went up 8%, not 18. 18 was African-American and Black, but 8% for Hispanic and 2 or more races. So this is work we continue to spend time with individual students, small groups of students, to make sure they're supported. So with that, I'm going to switch to another graduation requirement, the graduation pathway options, which are complex and extensive. So you can see here that there are actually 8 different options available. 1 is kind of in the works that I'm going to spend a little more time on, but 7 have been in place now for a few years, and they're in the areas of math and English language arts. So we have state assessments. Those are the Smarter Balanced assessments and the WA-AIM. Dual credit options like College and the High School and Running Start, CTE, dual credit. We have AP courses and exams, it's advanced placement. With the SAT college entrance exam, which all of our juniors take and we'll do in March again. We have Bridge to College Math, which is a senior class for students to have math credit. And then we will have this performance-based option, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. We also have the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, ASVAB, so students interested in the military or vocational interests, this might be an option. This one actually counts in both math and ELA if they meet that standard benchmark. And also we have an option for career and technical pathways, which is a sequence of courses, 2 credits and a specific grouping of classes that allow them to meet the requirement of math and ELA. As you can tell, very complicated, lots of moving parts. And so one of the things that we are doing and trying to do a better job at is really making sure that we communicate those options. So right here, these are for display purposes only. I wouldn't expect that you could read them off the screen here, but you're seeing documents that show up in our high school course catalog, which we're working on right now, making sure we have the details there for students and families, and when counselors are working with them to make sure that they've gone through that process so that they understand the different options available to them. And then also, because CTE, the pathways there. There are many different ways that you can actually meet your CTE pathway, making sure that those are also listed and clear to students and families when they're registering for classes. Next year, or this spring, we'll actually have a middle school course catalog, and with that, we'll also include these documents and information about these options so they can start planning earlier and know what's ahead for them. And all of these things are aligned to their high school and beyond plan. So when we talk about the status of graduation pathways for students who are in the class of 2024, for students who have met it, many of them have met it in several areas. And so this is what it's showing you. And this is just an overview. I'll give some more breakdowns, just like credits. But about 3/4 of our seniors have met in state assessment area. So that is still a really powerful way for students to demonstrate the math and ELA benchmarks. The SAT. We give it. A lot of schools, colleges don't require the SAT any longer. However, students are still doing very well on it, and this allows them to access graduation as well. And you can see from there down the line, this is mid-year, senior year, that this is really the work of senior year. The graduation pathway is where we pull the last piece really together for students to be able to graduate in June or August, depending upon their plan. Because when we look at Bridge to College Math, where it shows no kids have met it, that's because it's the senior level class, and we won't show any students in that category until we finish this year. So with that, a high level overview of our class of 2024, we have a little less than 70% of our students who have met in both the math and ELA pathways. They have to meet in both. We have another 20% who have met in one pathway, and then we have the 12% who have not met any pathways. Any student who is in the categories of met only one pathway or have not met in either pathway have a graduation plan. They're scheduled in courses such as our CTE courses. They're scheduled, or Bridge to College Math, for example. There's many other options actually if I went through the whole list. College in the high school is another key option. Also, they're signed up for many of the assessments that allow them to access this option as well. So throughout the year, we will see more students and the increase will happen. This rate is about the same as it was last year. It's 1% higher than it was from last year in terms of students meeting math and ELA pathways, both by this time in the school year. When we look at multilingual learner students, what we are seeing here is a really low rate. And what we see also is that students enter high school at different points. So their ability to take courses in the sequences that take about 2 years to complete for CTE, or to access courses that would be in our dual enrollment classes often happen later for many of our ML students. And so this year will be critical for them. And they will also take many other assessments and choices. And so this year will allow them to wrap up those options because many of them join us at different points. And what we saw last year is most of them do, except this is a critical year for them. So students qualifying for free and reduced meals, this also is another area where we spend a lot of time on graduation plans, making sure students are really signed up for the right classes, the right assessments, to make sure they have that available as well. And then for students with disabilities, they often also finish with choices that take place during their senior year as well. So we see this in program areas, especially where students are often taking other courses or enter at different points, or because of the program they're in, they have something lined up that will allow them to complete by senior year. These rates actually have increased. The multilingual learner students, sorry, I lost track of that word for a second, is about the same as it was for last year, but for students qualifying for free and reduced lunch meals, it's increased those who have both pathways completed by about 4%, and another 4% for our students with disabilities. So we're seeing some growth in that area because we are trying to get much more ahead of it by building in some pieces into those programs. When we look at graduation pathways by race and ethnicity, we see a similar bend in terms of the numbers. It reflects, but at a lower rate, what our credits are. And this is an area too, just overall with graduation pathways, trying to ensure students meet these earlier rather than during senior year. But we have seen growth for our African American Black students, an increase of 4% over the class of 2023, an increase of 4% again for our Hispanic students over the class of 2023, and an increase of 4% for our 2 or more races students who are in that group since the class of 2023. So with that, I wanted to share a new option that's going to be available. Actually, the State Board of Education has been publishing information about the status of the performance-based pathway. It's supposed to be a flexible option. And so this is an option where students are supposed to be able to show what they know in a hands-on, real-world way. So there's going to be some real options here. It's supposed to be customizable to the interests of the student, aligned with our high school and beyond plan. So the format is something along the lines of a project or learning in some way. They're learning and engaging in research. So it could be work related, it could be community service, many different ways. They give lots of examples about what that might mean. And then it should result in some kind of created work. So performance, a presentation, a portfolio, report, film. We've had versions of this actually in our senior class in many prior years. We called it the culminating project, but here it is in a different format where students align their work with the math and the ELA requirements that are there, and they can choose to do a project either in math or ELA or both, depending upon what they need. It also can take place in a course with credit or as a standalone, so that's something we will build towards. The State Board of Education and OSPI are developing tools to support the implementation of the performance-based graduation pathways. They are going to share with us proficiency targets, so which standards do students have to meet, and also rubrics or scoring guides that are supposed to go along with it. They've given some guidelines around it'll have a student learning plan, there'll be a reflection piece, that we have to have a certificated teacher in those areas to evaluate it. So those pieces we know about, and we're actually starting to do some initial planning, but we really won't have all of these pieces until February. And if we have enough lined up, what we will do is we'll make it available to students in the spring, probably embedded in courses that are already taking place with our seniors, especially in our students, for our students with disabilities, where courses already take place where they can get support from their teacher who supports their IEP, also our college and career readiness seminar class, so that students will have the support of the teacher they already know. So with that, when we talk about progress to graduation, part of our work is always aligned with following up with students who are dropouts. We do very assertive, aggressive work when it comes to dropouts. There is outreach going on all the time. So each day, weekly and monthly, we have accountability reports that are run that show who our dropouts are, when they dropped out, and shares the information about our last communication, our last outreach with each student. We do extensive follow-up with our dropouts. We do phone calls, we text message, we do home visits, we meet with families, we talk about what is the best fit and try to find out what would work best for a student. There's lots of reasons why students are dropouts. We've also been expanding many of our programs that serve dropouts. So one of the key pieces is our Everett Re-Engagement Academy. It is a 14-18 school open doors program, which is legislation that allows us to bring students back who are dropouts and has specific requirements that have to be met. So we have our Graduation Alliance Everett program, which is online. We have about 160 students right now who are moving through that program. They'll have an Everett Public Schools diploma when they finish. Its actual on-time graduation rate is close to 40% at this point. So students who are in there are actually coming back to school and actually making up credits and finding a way to graduate on time. We started midway through last year, the Everett Community College U3 Re-Engagement Program, which is in person. It allows students to have access to a GED, a high school diploma, or a college credential, or one of the other credential programs they offer at Everett Community College. We have about 31 students participating right now, and there's been a lot of demand for that program in particular because it's a great place for students to continue into a college environment, as well as to come back and finish high school. And then it's hard to forget Sequoia High School because they aren't just for dropouts. There's lots of great reasons why students go there. We have close to 150 students over there. Lots of different reasons where that's a small place for lots of kids to succeed. But many of our dropouts may find their way there because you have a lot of students being helped personally with counselors, teachers, small class size. They often get to know their colleagues very well in their classes. So we do earlier identification of dropouts. We're looking at attendance reports consistently. We meet with students and families, always trying to find that best fit option. We've been tracking dropouts each month
at that level for many more years than are listed here. But to just give you a sense of the pattern that's happening right now is that in October, when we pulled our annual dropout rate, we had 28 students. Where we are now is basically where we were sitting in the years just before the pandemic. So when we talk about re-engaging students, we're not losing track of them in the way that we were during that time, where it was very difficult to do the outreach that we were very used to doing because people were moving. We couldn't go to home visits. Nobody wanted to see us at a door, trust me. So now all of those things can happen, and the communication that takes place when you see kids, even if they're on campus once, there's a lot more follow-up. You can find out who their friend was, who made who they are, and we can do those steps. There's lots of different kinds of reasons for being a dropout. And if you see on the left, the 3 large categories that are reported are around students who earn a GED. So a student getting a GED may be a great credential to get, but it does count as a dropout. Students who report a reason for dropping out, which I can tell you, they often don't tell us when they're actually leaving us. But maybe later we find out is what usually happens. Students who do not report a reason, which is where you see most of our numbers. So initially, when we actually withdraw them, we often don't know exactly why they're dropping out. They do not inform us necessarily, but we do go find them and often find out what the reasons are. So with that, in the big picture of progress to graduation, there are many systems of support. We facilitate progress checks for credits and graduation pathways for all the data that was shared with you. There are lots of staff at schools looking through lists, working with individual students, meeting with groups and individual students to make sure we have a plan for students to graduate on time. We monitor attendance and implement attendance intervention strategies. We implement home visits and lots of planning sessions with families around that best fit. We have exit interviews. We try to find out what's going on, and if it doesn't happen immediately, we often end up having that meeting down the road to find out the reason. We monitor a lot of real-time data. Every day, there's data being pulled up, monitoring, tracking, finding out what would work best for a student around credits, graduation requirements, and if they're having trouble coming to school, what would be a best fit. We continue to develop flexible credit recovery, competency-based credit options so students can have lots of options to make up credits. That can happen during the school day. That can happen after school, Saturday programming, and then certainly during the summer as well. We create transition plans between comprehensive high schools, and if they go on to something like Everett Re-Engagement Academy, that Graduation Alliance, and Everett Community College U3 program, or Sequoia, so that information is shared so that students can have a soft landing when they arrive at the other place. And then we ensure each student has a graduation plan really mapped out so that they're able to graduate on time. And then we do a lot of monitoring of that. So in terms of our next steps, continuing to engage in our ongoing monitoring of student progress to graduation with a special focus really at this point on our graduation pathways. And then we're going to keep developing and providing access to graduation pathways. So we'll develop this performance-based graduation option once we know a little more information. And then we engage in student by student support. So though we talk systems, a lot of what happens is really with individual students. And then providing outreach to students to make sure that if they're not attending school, that they have options available, whether it's in our district or outside our district, to find a best fit. And then a lot of the work is really around building relationships with students and knowing students so that when we're working with them, they trust us, and we're going to work with them to make sure that they graduate when they're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Willard. Are there any questions or comments? Dr. Revelinsky.
I just want to say thank you, and don't give up.
Thank you. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Anyone else? Yes.
Thanks for the update. The credit attainment numbers are great. So that, and I appreciate you referencing past years and the changes there. So I guess what I'm kind of curious about, I'm looking at the percent of students who have met their credits versus the number of students who have met their pathways, which is, so credits, it's 86%, and pathways, it's 32 to 58 or so.
Depending, well.
So are they just taking classes that are kind of in the wrong buckets? So they're getting credit, but they're not in the right pathway? Or is it taking classes but shy of the academic attainment, so they're not passing the exams that give them the pathway?
There's a number of different ways that they're not meeting graduation pathways. Sometimes they have not taken the courses, like college and the high school English or a math course, that would allow them to be eligible in those buckets. It may be that a student hasn't passed exams like the Smarter Balanced or the SAT at a level that allows them to meet that. But one of the ways that we want students to have access in addition to assessments is through their course taking. And because students are often in 9th and 10th grade, almost regardless of a program, they have a set of classes that they have to take. Many of the options that really allow them to access graduation pathways don't really happen until junior and senior year. The example that's most blatant is Bridge to College Math, where it's just a senior class. So you wouldn't know before senior year if anybody had accessed it. But for our English 4 class, which across our district is a college and the high school class, which would allow students to meet this requirement, it's a senior class. So we won't see students meet it until the end of the year because they have to finish a complete credit and pass that class. So senior year is still very critical to meeting this because most of the requirements happen at the end of junior year, like the SAT or Smarter Balance, which we have earlier. But again, we're talking about junior year. And if they don't meet those, the course taking 2 years of CTE pathway, again, that's mostly going to arrive at the end of senior year. So we're seeing the timing of some of these happen more along the lines of senior year. So we're trying to build options for more college and the high school at earlier grades so that students can access that. Some of the assessment choices, building local CTE pathways that access the earlier CTE options so that students may have taken a class in freshman year and not have to wait till their senior year to complete that pathway just because of how courses line up. So lots of nuances to some of the pieces there. We keep learning.
Have we seen a fairly large increase with 9th graders or 8th graders going into high school with more credits now?
Yes,
And that's
actually.
what's driving some of the big credit bump versus the pathway?
Yeah, and we grew a lot of our CTE programming at middle school, and for 7th and 8th grade students, that means they're going to have a head start on some of the things that we're talking about now, and why it won't always be senior year, the critical year, but will really have built up. On average, students are arriving to high school with over 2 credits at this point.
That's great.
There are students
Yeah.
who have 4 and 6. I can tell you, I see those all the time.
Yeah.
But on average, and more of an at-risk indicator at this point is no credits going into high school because there's so many different options available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, great job on increasing those numbers, and I appreciate the reference to previous year. The performance-based pathway option that's going to be coming out in February, March time. So students do not need to necessarily register. They're not getting a credit for that. That might be April. A student is finding that they need this, and then working with the teacher, working with the new guidelines, making it happen in time for graduation.
Yes, so we're expecting that it be published at the end of January, beginning of February, based on the timeline they gave, that we would embed it in courses we already have. With principals and success coordinators and counselors, we have started to identify students that we think might need this as an option, as a companion to their other options, because we want options for students. And given that we have a lot of experience in this area, we're going to build on things that we already know and build some models that students could use to piggyback on. So one area for math may be around personal finance. This is something that we have grown in our college and career readiness seminar, but students could do some more deeper learning and be aligned with math. We have to wait for the standards and a few pieces to come out, but we could do some of that work. So we've done some pre-planning and to see what comes out so that we can align it and make it really achievable for students so they could spend the spring working on that. Yeah.
Thank you. Student reps, do you have any questions? So when we have a senior up here, so
I know, I'm waiting.
So nice to see that. I just wanted to congratulate the strong work again on slide 10 on those, getting those credits in middle school. And I think too, it's, now that the kids have to opt out, it might be a little bit easier that we're attaining that. Question about, actually a compliment first on all the strong green, but really what has been the change in the red? Is that green, sort of the yellows and reds are both decreasing, moving it into the green, or how are we really working on those reds?
Definitely, we have students moving from the red to the green. I think the earlier options for credit starting in middle school, we're doing, I mean, we always get better every year. Again, we learn alongside of a class of students. Finding out what students need earlier, 9th grade, starting high school, what do they need to make up already? And making sure we're ahead of that, not waiting for it to accumulate into 11th and 12th grade. So we're seeing some of that patterned work that we've been doing over many years start to show up in that. And so the earlier that we get to students with the options available is when we see the green essentially increase for credits.
Well, thank you. And yeah. This is one of our, I think one of our favorite presentations, because this is why we're here. So
yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
And now we will move on to information discussion, section 16.0. For this section, we do have a fiscal outlook 2023, 2027, and Ms. Tress will be presenting.
I need to beef up on my technology skills, I guess. Hasn't been that long. Feels like just a month. Thank you, Dr. Saltzman, Board of Directors, President Mitchell. I'm here tonight to provide you an updated fiscal outlook on the district's operating budget. We'll take a look at our general fund, a snapshot of our general fund balance. We'll take a look at our funding shortfalls, and we'll review a 4-year fiscal outlook for the district. On the November 28th board meeting, I began providing monthly budget updates to the board and the community. And as I discussed at that meeting, we do anticipate a higher fund balance than originally budgeted. What I want to show here on this table is that we have the 3-year monthly projection, monthly outlook of our actual fund balance for each of the fiscal years, for each month. The preliminary first quarter fund balance follows recent trends, and our fund balance covers our current district commitments. It's a snapshot or a point of time look at how much resources the district has at that moment in time. What I also want to highlight as well is that although our fund balance is following the trends from the this quarter, we do have pending bargaining negotiation impacts that are not reflected in our current fund balance, and we do anticipate slightly lower fund balance looking forward. This table represents our budgeted outlook versus our estimated actual outlooks for this fiscal year. The first column is our 23-24 adopted operating budget, and the second column is our 23-24 estimated actuals for the fiscal year. As I mentioned earlier, we do anticipate a higher ending fund balance than originally budgeted, and there's 2 primary reasons for that. One is that our beginning fund balance was actually higher than anticipated, and that the other is that our overall enrollment is higher than budgeted as well. I also want to highlight that our revenues and other sources, our revenues and other financing sources, the money coming in is also anticipated to be slightly lower than our original budget, along with our expenditures to be slightly lower than our original budget. This is primarily due to the fact that we build in capacity to manage our district's operations overall. What I also want to say is that our expenditures are still anticipated to be exceeding our revenues. Although there has been a slight decline than our original operating budget of 4.3 million, we do continue to have a structural deficit based on the fact that of a structural deficit of $3.2 million going forward. This slide is a representation of the funding shortfalls and the impacts that the district will see as we look at impacts to funding as we look towards the future. The first column represents what we budgeted for the fiscal year in regards to our basic education support services, CTE and special education staffing costs. And so approximately 80% of those staffing costs were funded by the state. The remainder, just slightly under 20%, is funded through other sources or locally funded. As we look to the next fiscal year, we do see a gap in funding, and this really illustrates the impact that the state funding and our local funding doesn't increase at the same rate, and it creates a funding gap of approximately 1% or $3.3 million. Looking ahead at what this looks like for the next 4 years, I do see that we will need to make reductions in the 24-25 fiscal year. I recommend that we make reductions in approximately $3 to $5 million for the next fiscal year. What I want to say to this slide is that we do anticipate slightly increasing enrollment. We don't anticipate any major changes to the legislative funding outcomes, and this does assume IPD or the implicit price deflator impacting for staffing costs. What I also want to note too is that even when we do make reductions, we will need to be managing our budget, managing our overall expenditures in the forecasted years as well. Although we do have an improved fiscal outlook, our ending fund balance is looking better than we originally budgeted during our budget adoption. We do anticipate a continuing decline in our fund balance. We did a great job making reductions last year, and we have some work to do for the next fiscal years, and not to the same significant impact. This slide really highlights what our adopted budget, so the blue line or the lines with circles was our adopted budget. The yellow line represents what our current projections would be with reductions in the 24-25 fiscal year. And what I want to highlight on this is that we do anticipate to be above our 5% minimum fund balance if we make the reductions next fiscal year. If we don't make any reductions, you'll see in that 25-26 fiscal year that we will be below our overall our overall minimum fund balance of 5% going forward. As we continue to manage through our budget process for the next fiscal year, we have some measures and next steps that we will be doing. We have a process to review every open position throughout the fiscal year. We will do a final review and assessment of our enrollment assumptions for next year, and we will update our fiscal outlook accordingly with that. We have engaged with our Fiscal Advisory Council in October, and we have 4 additional meetings planned throughout the remainder of the fiscal year. We will have a board budget workshop in the end of January as well. And as Jen has mentioned before, our legislative session will be ending at the end, Director Herman has mentioned before, our legislative session will be ending at the end of March, and we will adopt those impacts in the March and April timeframe. Again, we don't anticipate significant changes, a significant influx of funding through the legislature this year. And as needed, we will present to the board a reduced educational program similar to last year in that March-April timeframe if there's a need. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Andy. Are there any questions?
Thank you for the update. Question on slide 5, and it kind of follows through. So help. You go back 2 more?
Nope, slide 5.
That's okay. So I'm looking at the revenues, and we budgeted $385 million when we had, that budget was like 100 and some less kids. And now we have those students, which brings funding to the district, but you're saying that we actually, I mean, that's a lot of students.
Yeah.
and our revenue is less?
Right.
Help me understand that.
And the driver for that is that we build in about 1% capacity in our budget, and so that's about 3.5 million, both in our revenues and in our expenditures. So we'll always see slightly lower revenues and expenditures. We also build in a little bit of capacity as well for enrollment. So we do plan to have both again in our revenue and expenditures. So we have two kind of drivers for the capacity. One would be in enrollment, and one would be just to ensure that we can manage our overall operations. And what I want to highlight too is you see the decline in the overall deficit. That's really due to kind of staffing along how we staff our during our staffing process when we see the students come in, and then aligning our revenue coming with it. That it tends to be in our favor when we have a little bit more enrollment coming through, depending on where we land when kiddos come in.
That's why I was surprised to see it go down.
Yeah, well, that's really what's driving it, is that we get the additional revenues. It's not always a one-to-one in regards to what we need to staff for that additional revenue.
Any other questions or just comments?
Yeah, just thank you again. I was, if you could go to slide 10 again. I think this is exactly what this is what you had said. Basically, we've got 2 years without reductions before we hit that.
Ultimately, if we don't make any reductions, yes, the 24-25, we would be above our minimum fund balance, and then in that following year.
Exactly, yeah, and we had last year, we had anticipated that this would be, well, not as significant as last year. This would be another year of cuts. So knowing that we are anticipating having to make cuts in this spring. The next slide, then, the timeline, yeah. I just want to make sure we also include some time for public feedback and that public discourse because when we see reduced educational program, I don't want to announce ideas too soon because I think that makes people very nervous. But at the same time, I just want to make sure that people are aware that that is on the table. And so somewhere in the spring, if that looks to be where we're headed, maybe this would be part of the January budget workshop discussion, is if we are going to have to make educational program impacts or what those cuts are going to look like, to make sure that we have public time for public feedback on that.
And we did engage the public significantly last year, as well as that's kind of our guiding principles beginning the process for this year, is utilizing the practice from last year as well.
Thank you. It's a great question because I think based on the press, I really do want to congratulate you and everyone here. It was hard last year, but I think we were out early, and this is what, about 10% more that we need to do. So if we do that same process, it is hard, but we're ahead of the game compared to a lot of other districts, and so I appreciate that. One question I have, it's more of, I guess, a political statement for slide number 7. Looking at the 20% coming back from the locally funded, the state did hamper how much we can collect from our levies. And now we're sort of at that tipping point again, that this is like pre-McCleary-like, where so much is coming out. And I appreciate on our legislative priority sheet that we have, where it's talking about sort of the unfunded for special ed and MSOC. But you look at the unfunded from the state for just basic education is really a problem, because they are not fully funding how much it costs to educate our kids. So,
and looking at our basic education, it followed just specifically that does follow the same similar rate, about 80 to 20%.
Yeah,
as well.
So thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? No, thank you. Okay, well, we will now move on to section 17.0, which is unfinished business. There is no unfinished business planned for today's meeting, which moves us on to new business, section 18.0, where Mr. Fleckenstein has 4 policies he's going to go over with us, and I will let you introduce those as they come up.
Well, good evening. To begin this evening, proposed revisions reflect for policy 6220, requirements for bids and contracts. reflect input from the State Auditor's Office and the Washington Association of School Business Officials. The revisions specify that school boards must have entered into agreements under the Interlocal Cooperation Act before making any purchase utilizing those special terms. The revisions also clarify information about procurement of using federal funds, and the updates also incorporate provisions from House Bill 1086 regarding the Community Service Organization exception to competitive bidding laws for public works. And to reference that in particular in two places, construction and related services on these revisions is opening up our process to gain larger participation by minority or women-owned business enterprises. And then also further down in the policy revisions, calling specifically around the district taking affirmative steps to ensure that the opportunities for women and minority-owned businesses are solicited for submitting bids on any open contract.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Under minority-owned businesses, are tribal-owned businesses included in that?
I would have to specifically look up the state law's language if it was under that definition.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have revisions to policy 6605, student safety riding school buses. The proposed revisions comply with Washington Administrative Code 392-151-025 regarding suggested safe route plans to walking routes to school for all elementary schools where students walk to and from schools. In addition, language has been added to the procedure clarifying student conduct expectations on buses and the disciplinary procedures that may occur. Some of the revisions here, and this is one to explicitly call out as it was a question earlier in the school year about the ability for anyone to get on a school bus. This specifically calls out that no unauthorized people are prohibited from getting on our school buses. And then also it references to, in compliance with that WAC, the state routes to school plan and how we would go about that process. That process is conducted already in the school district procedurally by our transportation department, and those routes are then published through our VersaTrans website where we do our bus routes and communicate that prior to school to families.
Okay. Are there any questions? Yes.
I do have a question. I was looking at this. So the WAC, it says all elementary schools that have students who walk to and from school. Does it reference biking to school? Do you know? Because I noticed like the next paragraph, it mentions a biking audit.
I think walking and/or biking is synonymous to a safe route to and from school where district transportation is not provided.
Okay, I just bring that up because potentially where one walks could be very different than where one should be riding a bike. So like you don't want bikes on sidewalks and things like that. So I guess I'm just asking, is that designation in the WAC, or is that something that as the district conducts the walking and biking audit, are those two separated, or is it just one path?
Specifically, state law obliges us to identify safe walking routes for our students to and from school.
Just walking.
We would never have an obligation for them to use some other mode of transportation like a bike or a scooter or something like that to get to and from school.
Then I guess I ask, why is it this called a biking walking safety plan versus just walking and riding school buses?
When we do updates to district policies in transportation to and from school, there's references to, how can I describe this? WASDA's model policies sometimes incorporate revisions into model policies that we have incorporated into existing Everett Public Schools policies from the past. So instead of having, I'm going to make up a number, but instead of having something like 1,500 policies, we will incorporate small additions based on law into existing policies to cut down the number of that we have. That is for an efficiency piece for searching. In this case, with bicycles in particular, right, this policy is about getting to and from school using some mode of transportation. So by incorporating the information about bicycles, the walking piece, and our bus expectations, and the majority of this information is, if you go into the procedure, talks a little bit more about the details of this. It's not spelled out in the policy itself. The procedure is much more comprehensive in terms of, for example, our school bus conduct and discipline that I referenced here that was updated. But procedurally, how we go about that work is in the procedure. So
Okay.
I can see the disconnect in the policy where it has a small piece that might
Yeah.
be changed, but then the majority of that information is in the procedure.
Okay. And so is the 1 mile radius, that's for elementary school students primarily? Is that to get to the bus, or is?
That was the
walk?
way that the state law was written, is within a 1 mile
Right.
radius.
Is it, but it's different for middle and high school? Is it a little bit longer, or is it all 1 mile?
So the provisions in this revision is for elementaries specifically.
Okay. I guess I'm just stating, as someone who bikes, there's a lot of different rules about riding a bike to school than there are walking to school. You know, one, you want to go with the traffic, one, you want to go against the traffic, things like that. And so I'm just curious if we're really doing the biking piece justice, or we're just adding the word in the policy.
In the policy itself, and I'll point out in the second paragraph, in the second sentence, the plan will recommend the best routes for students walking to and from school, as well as the best routes to and from per school bus stops. We can recommend that people use the routes that we designate. It doesn't mean that they don't have the freedom to choose another
Right.
path.
I understand. Okay.
Any other questions?
This doesn't address biking, so I'm not sure why we're including the word biking in there, but.
If you'd like, Dr. Saltzman, I can provide a greater response if you would like me to qualify with the biking portion of this related to the procedure.
That might be best.
If it's in the procedure, I didn't read the procedure thoroughly, so maybe that's my miss there. If it's in there, I'll go ahead and just read the procedure.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Food and Nutrition Program Policy 6700. The proposed revisions are to comply with House Bill 1238, which made school meals free for all students in qualifying schools, regardless of their socioeconomic background. Meals provided under this section must be nutritiously adequate and qualify for federal reimbursement under the school lunch program or the school breakfast program. Following these school lunch program guidelines, students are not eligible for more than one meal in a single meal service period. I've referenced an inquiry earlier this week around what you see here highlighted in green, and it's where it comes from specifically in terms of USDA regulations. The language here is ensuring that meal periods are in compliance with USDA regulations. On its surface, periods, when we have a school connotation to it, usually equates to class periods or time. In this case, it's actually referring to meal periods, and then for the federal program is breakfast and lunch times. So what that is referencing is the fact that the regulation during those meal periods to be compliant is not only the adequately nutritious meal, for which there's definitions of the plans of our requirements of what we provide in school lunch, but also that we cannot give more than one meal to a student either of those two meal periods. So I'm recommending we retain it in the policy.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Next.
And finally, new policy 6959, acceptance of completed projects. This new policy aligns with state statute chapter 60.28 RCW pertaining to public works contracts that receive state funding.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. The recommended action is to move all of these to second reading. And Director Mason, I do appreciate your question about biking. So perhaps if there are more questions, you follow up with him. Thank you. And now we'll move to section 19.0, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Saltzman, what is planned for our upcoming meetings?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public. At the January 9th regular meeting, the Board Agenda will contain the following: a strategic initiative work session preview, an instructional review summary, several policies for second reading, the first reading of the board annual regular meeting schedule for 2024-2025, a recognition for the School Board Recognition Month, a recognition for the December Core Value Champion, the first quarter financial report, November financial report, selection of student information system, and the OSPI Equity Dual Credit Grant. At the January 11th special board will have a special workshop at the January 11th special meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The next section is section 20.0, executive closed session. There is no executive or closed session planned for this evening. So we are now on to section 21.0, which is adjournment. And I would like to thank everyone for here tonight, welcome our new people, and wish everyone a happy and safe holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.